Welcome to Shorty's SuperCoach. We've got the earphones in. We're taking Langer's advice as we continue to try and just get the ideal microphone settings for old Shorty's SuperCoach. But I hope you guys are well out there. It does sound a little bit weird hearing my voice through the earphones, but let's see how we go. I hope you guys are travelling nicely. Just giving myself a shameless plug here as we start on my recent videos. So if you haven't checked those out, I'd love you to. This Versus series seems somewhat popular, so if you want to see a couple of guys compared in like-for-like sort of positions, chuck them through. Let us know who you'd like to see, and I'll endeavour to do that because I quite like doing those type of videos as well. But yeah, we're going to take a look at the ruck today, and I'm going to do it all at once. So I think I like to break up the midfield, the back line, that type of thing, so some mid-prices and premiums, but there's not as many players to discuss in the ruck department, so let's smash it out all at once. And could be a lengthy video, so stick with old Shorty. I'd love you to stay all the way through, but if you're not, if you got a bit on, if you're not that way inclined, feel free to go to the comments and just check out timestamps, or it might even be in the description. I can't quite remember where I put it. But yeah, we'll endeavour to make it as easy as possible for you to find out who exactly you sort of want to hear about. But yeah, we'll get stuck into it. I've knocked off a bit early today. I actually started a course today. Started studying, so Shorty's back in the classroom. That felt a little bit weird. But yeah, I just it was just like an induction today, so it allowed me to finish a little bit earlier than I normally would, and normally I'd be sort of in the van delivering groceries at the moment in Shorty's little part-time gig at the moment, but it's nice to be just making some SuperCoach content after a relatively chill day. I'm sure they'll get busier, but nonetheless, let's yeah, get stuck into it. And the ruck, look, here's the thing with the ruck. It should be that simple. Set and forget, but I bugger that up year after year. I start looking for mid prices and guys that'll get the #1 ruck and little breakout contenders, and I ignore Max Gawn every year, and every year it screws old Shorty over. But here we are again, unsure exactly of what I'm going to do. I think overall, speaking generally, set and forget is a great way to go, because I'll tell you what, from experience, if you don't grab a hold of those gun ruckmen, the very best at the start of the year, very hard to get them throughout. And mid prices, they just have a way of going awfully wrong in the ruck. G'day Sam Draper, how you going? But nonetheless, they're very interesting to talk about. There is one fella that I'll talk about in depth later that I think is very much a guy we have to consider. But there will be some of you who are just out there going, Shorty, I'll save you 25 minutes, mate. Just set and forget. Throw the key away, sleep nicely on your pillow every night. Probably great advice, but doesn't make for as interesting of a video. So we're going to get stuck into it now. And let's start with the man himself, Max Gawn. He's been outstanding year after year for so many years now, and he continues to deliver. In fact, he's actually marginally cheaper than we've probably been able to get him in the past. He's knocked out, well, beyond 130 averages, I believe. Yeah, 140. Did he average 140 in 2020? That's nuts. Look at that. You know, even last year was actually his lowest since 2017. It's quite interesting. But look, you pay for him and you get what you want. He's a gun. We know exactly what we're going to get out of Maxi Gawn. The one little thing I'll say, and we'll talk about this bloke more when I discuss the forwards, but Luke Jackson is on an upward curve, and I feel as if he's only going to get better and better, and he's only going to command more and more time in the ruck. So that's something to just keep an eye on, how it affects Max Gawn. Gawn, he's not going to fall off a cliff, but you know, I just wonder how many cigars he smoked over the off-season after the Demons just took out the flag, and I just wonder, is he going to be at his absolute peak, or could the mantle be passed to a fella that we're going to talk about in a moment, the next generation, younger version of a guy that could be premium ruck for years and years and years. So the fact is, you could set him into your team and he's going to do you a great job. He'll be top 3 or 4 ruck, there's no doubt about it. You could probably argue an extremely good case that he'll be number 1. So I think Gawn is a guy that, while I overlook him consistently, has pretty much given me egg on my face every time. So maybe I'll learn my lesson this year. But nonetheless, Gawn, probably going to be top 2 ruck again. But you do pay the big pennies, but he's very much worth it. And like I mentioned just before, the new fella on the block, Sean Darcy. Now, if we're honest, nobody saw this coming. Come on. Don't sit there and tell me you thought that he could have been averaging these numbers. Come on. You're telling me absolute lies. I must admit, I have mentioned him in Fremantle club-by-club previews before, thinking that he could be a guy that plays some really good footy. But I never thought he would be an option in that fashion. Just went bang. Unfortunately, he let us down SuperCoach Grand Final Day. 61. Ouch. But otherwise, look at that. Particularly, he had this hot patch where, there it is, 140, 90, 193, 183, 156. He was taking the piss. 40 hit-outs, touched. I didn't think he was ever a guy who was going to get 25 touches in a game. I really thought he'd be sort of Shane Mumford style, like low sort of low possessions, high hit-outs, effective. He must have high clearances and contested ball, I'm thinking. Yes, look at that. Well over 50% of his possessions are contested. Doesn't mind a clearance either. Now, like I mentioned with Luke Jackson, if you've got any sort of concerns about Jackson taking, even if it's 10% of the ruck off Max Gawn, fair enough. But Darcy really doesn't have too many guys to contend with. Lloyd Meek, Rory Lobb, more of a forward ruck. Actually, Rory Lobb's still there, right? Because I swear he was thrown around as a serious trade option, but I'm pretty sure he stayed, didn't he? Yeah, it looks like he stayed. But Lloyd Meek's probably the guy. And there were times where they did share the ruck, but again, when Darcy... Actually, let's have a little sneaky look. Lloyd Meek, stats, just want to see his games. Always crucial to just have a little look if you're ever worried about the impact they might have. So what do we got? First 4 weeks. You just compare them, get them up side by side. First 4 weeks when Meek was in the team, well, he only played 2, 3 and 4, 91, 80, 129. And then 19 to 23, 94, 116, 120, had a 150. 61. So I don't think we should be too concerned. I think what we can say is that when Darcy wasn't sharing the ruck, he had some of his best days, 146, 140, and those massive 150 plus scores I referenced before. So it goes without saying that when a big lumbering human being of a ruckman enjoys the full ruck to himself, he's going to score massive and score big. How much does it change when they share it? Quite interesting. I'll have a look at similar numbers when I talk about Marshall, but on the surface, I don't think Darcy is hugely impacted by Meek, and the fact is the bloke scored massive, so we shouldn't overthink it. We really shouldn't overthink it. Gawn and Darcy are going to produce huge numbers again. It's fun to sort of talk about the split between the main ruck and the second ruck, but the fact is, when the chips are down, these guys are the ones that are in the centre bounce, and they're big bodies, they can win their own ball. So they didn't average those sort of numbers for no reason, and the ownership sort of reflects the confidence that other people have. I mean, Nic Nat, he's a superstar, just does it year after year, but we can just never pick him because I know he's had some better time with the body of late, but I just don't think we can ever trust that, he's getting older and older. Surely he's going to start to miss more and more games. I mean, if I have a look at him, I'm going to say he's actually been somewhat durable, like sort of more so than maybe we had have thought. I mean, well, shit, look at that last year, and that was a condensed year, 2020, I'm guessing. So, look, his last couple of years, he's actually stayed on the park pretty well. But there's better options that we can be a bit more confident in. So just the 4% of ownership for Nic Nat. Now, Brodie Grundy, I think, look, is he the most popular ruck by the looks of it at the moment? Just pipping Max Gawn, and so many people have Gawn and Grundy, and I don't want to spend too much time on Grundy because I think he's an absolute lock. I mean, you can get him slightly cheaper than Gawn, and that's after he, had a slightly down year. I mean, if you hear him talked about in the media, people are like, he needs to find his mojo again, this and that. Grundy was a bit off, but the SuperCoach numbers were still pretty handy, which is crazy to think. But he was a bit down, didn't enjoy the COVID life and the isolation, the bubble. Who did? But he was apparently one of the guys that probably suffered the most, and therefore we see him slightly down. But I expect him to bounce back, get around that 120 mark quite comfortably. So if you wanted me to say, look, I mean, there's your top three: Gawn, Darcy, Grundy. If you're set and forget style of guy, which two of those do you want to go? I think of the three, Grundy's the most lockable, just because he's slightly cheaper, got the most upside, and we know he can do it. So, and in terms of the other three, I mean, I'd have to preference Gawn, but look, they are your big guys. They're your heavy hitters in the ruck department. So you might have some concerns that Darcy's only done it once, and he's still a young guy. You probably have far more confidence in a Gawn and Grundy sort of combination, but Darcy's proven very popular, 29%. It's not too far off the big dogs. I'm going to go past Hickey. Goldstein's been great for us over the journey, but not so much anymore, Todd. Now, Rowan Marshall, massive fan of this guy. I just did a video just before, and they'll be scheduled at different times, obviously, but did it literally 10 minutes ago, talking about potentially, he might be a guy that gets forward eligibility at some stage, given he'll share a bit of that load with Ryder. I love his price point, though. Absolutely love it. I think he's unders because he had a game where he came back, scored average, and then I reckon it was, round 9. I reckon he was done maybe third quarter, second quarter, 43, and look, missed a bit of time. It wasn't a perfect year for him. But Ryder also missed a fair bit of footy. Now, you can have a look at it for yourself in your own time if you like, but if we say look at basically round 7 to 19 and compare it with Marshall, he obviously had that 66. I'm not sure if that was injury affected. Doesn't seem like it. Then he went off. Then he missed a big chunk. And then if we just sort of go 15 to 19, good scores, good scores, but also some of his more lower end tons and score. And then you can see, excuse me, you can see when he is a guy just shouldering the load himself. He had some massive scores. 3 of his best scores were without Ryder. So, again, it sort of says that it will affect him, but he's still going to be a really good option. So that's the thing. He's shown us previously that he can average 100 with Ryder and sharing it. And again, the Saints will probably go about it a similar way. But I guess you just got to ask yourself, while Marshall's going to be a great option and score really well, say he averages 105. Awesome. Thanks, Rowan. That's great. If you take him, say you start Grundy and Marshall, and your mate starts Gawn and Grundy, Gawn's gone 120, Marshall's 105, you're thinking Marshall's good selection. He's averaged 105, where your mate's going, well, true, but I'm also taking 15 points off you every week. So if you do the math, you could be losing a few points to your mate every single week, and that accumulation, that can be a lot of ranking points. And if you do that on a few positions, you go so-and-so versus so-and-so, and you lose 7 points on the average every week, it starts to build up. They're the little things in SuperCoach that can just see you lagging behind it. And look, set and forget, Marshall's not far off it, but he is just a tier below, I think, in this ruck department. Riley O'Brien, I think we can probably scroll past old Riley, still working his phone out, but look, he's a workhorse, really good draft option, I reckon, but not really for us. No. Oscar McInerney apparently looking outstanding for Brisbane. Real potential to get that figure up around the 100 mark. But again, look, the ruck is either, if you set and forget guy, like I said before, Gawn, Grundy, Darcy, pick 2. if you're not a set and forget guy, well, you're scrolling well past these dudes. You know, we're not looking at going anyone above 400k, let alone 5 whatever. I had a couple of questions about Segler and how it might look for the Cats, sort of being a Cats man, but I wouldn't get too wound up in that. And people aren't, 1%. You know, it'll still be Stanley sometimes, Segler sometimes, Sav sometimes. Sometimes I'll share it. Tim English, really interesting. I know I pumped him up a couple of years back and he hurt me. Dropped him after a couple of weeks. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you. Here's just another little painful story from Shorty's SuperCoach ambitions. Oh boy. Not the best hyper, old Shorty. This is funny. Must have been this one. So I've talked him up all pre-season. If you're new to the channel, pumped him up. Started with him. Put me balls on the line. Ah, cool. 63. All right. I'll stick the faith. 68. Gave me no opportunity to stick with the guy. Had to get rid of him. 120, 145, 125, 105. I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, he's reeled off 4 tons. That hurts. Well, try a 204 on for size. The amount of messages I got as he worked his way to 200. He just sort of amassed, what is it, probably over 650 points or something in 5 weeks after I traded him out. Absurd. But look, honestly, I think this guy is still very capable of averaging 3 figures. I might talk about him a lot more in the forward video because he is dual position, which is a little juicy. The big question mark is how the doggies look to shape up their ruck. He is a bit maligned, I reckon, Timmy English. And, you know, of course we had Martin do the bit of a workload with him. And again, I think it's the obvious question. Like I said before, sometimes the sharing of the ruck can hinder players more than others. And English tends to become, when he shares it, tends to become more of a forward ruck, where maybe someone like Marshall and Ryder, they tend to share it pretty evenly. So English suffers a lot more than some other guys. Now, I think if Martin goes down or English happens to... I've got my earphones in. I feel as if Watson's just taking the piss. Hey, you, Jack? Get out of here, boy. That sexual noise that you probably just heard was my good housemate Watson. But nonetheless, we'll move forward. Can't remember where I was up to, but he does inform me. He's a big Brisbane Lions fan, and he just tells me, Big O, top 4 ruck. Top 4, he says. So we'll see. He is a good judge. Occasionally, you know, might have a bit of bias towards Big O. He loves him, but we'll wait and see. Can't remember where I was up to. I was talking about Tim English. Definitely think, you know, if Martin were to go down or anything like that, he's a guy that's capable of definitely averaging 3 figures. He's done it before, but we can't entertain that. Honestly, I think he's a legitimate discussion in the forward line, but super risky. Super risky. And I mean, I'd love him to keep that forward status. For next year, maybe, Martin retires and boom, we can launch at him. Don't know about this year. As we just roll through, we really start to get to, oh, Sammy Draper. And he's in 5% of sides. It was painful. It was painful. Look, I stand by everything I said last year. I think this guy, at some point, could be a star of the game. But hey, it was not last year. I'll tell you that much. It was not last year. He absolutely killed me. One player of a long list of disastrous decisions that walked through the doors of Shorty SuperCoach. But nonetheless, I still think he's going to be a Jet. I just couldn't bring myself to pick him again this year after what happened last year. But 5% of people are, and good luck to you. I still hope he goes great. It'll validate me. But 2 years later, it doesn't matter now, does it? You know, still copping it. This man, again, a bit like Tim English, and I've mentioned him at the top of the video in regards to how he affects Gawn, but I will talk to him more in the forward line. He is conducting a little bit of interest. For me, as we sit here now, he's going to improve. That average is going to go up. But it maintains as a no for me. He's sort of on the top end of mid-price, and I just feel as if picking young talls that he's destined for greatness. This bloke, it might be towards the end of this year, it might be next year. He will be a guy that we discuss in a premium video, let alone a mid-price type of discussion. He'll be talked about as a premium, but to go with him now, while he's still clearly going to be the secondary ruck, he'll have his days where he gets a bit more of it, and we saw in the grand final the influence he had in the centre bounce. So those numbers are going up. But I still don't know if it's going to be enough, considering how many good options we have in the forward line, which I'll talk about probably later in the week, but just don't reckon we need to rush out and buy him. I mean, hey, if Gawn went down with an injury, if that knee plays up again or something, boom, I am grabbing big-time stocks of Luke Jackson for sure, but not just yet. And we continue with some mid-price action in Jarrod Witts. Now, 10% of teams, and for good reason. I think people are sort of saying, hey, Shorty, I want a mid-price option. Well, he's the sort of guy I don't have to really hope for a breakout like Draper or Jackson or whatever. This is a guy that just shoulders the load on his own, loves dominating for the Suns, and he's just a workhorse. And so I sort of get that. He's only 29. Honestly thought he was older. Don't need to look at that. Just need to look at his averages. You know, he's consistent, particularly the 2 years prior. So I think, look, if that's how you're sort of floating, again, he's not really my cup of tea. I think he probably isn't cheap enough for me to feel justified. But hey, he's a solid mid-price option. If he's fully fit, which I'm not really sure on his status at the moment, but if he is, you're looking at a solid 90. Might be mid-90s, might be low 90s, but he's going to be a really solid option. So I sort of get where people are coming from. He's just probably not a guy that I've sort of entertained, and I'll talk to you about my sort of thought process at the moment, or in a moment I will. And I think, look, most of these lads we can probably just start to scroll by at a fairly rapid rate. There's a little bit of discussion with a couple of boys here, and this is what I want to talk about. Look, there's one bloke we'll talk about for a little bit. The one beneath him, as you'll be well aware of who I'm talking about. Very, very interesting. Let's just touch on Max Lynch for a second. Of course, finds himself at the Hawks. He's not cheap as chips, but will and should get really good opportunities. So I understand why he's in a few more teams, but probably when he's next to a bloke like this, touch cheaper is Braydon Preuss. Probably puts Lynch out of commission, just because it's not to say Lynch is a poor option, but if you're looking in this price range, you've got two guys, it has to be Preuss that we consider. Now, let's talk about the big fella. As injury prone as they come, does our head in, has for so long. And let's have a look at these numbers. He's been to North Melbourne. He said, boys, I'm talking to my manager. All right, Braydon, talk to your manager. I want opportunity. Okay, mate, we'll give you some opportunity. Go to Melbourne. Oh, hang on, isn't Max Gawn at Melbourne? Nah, just go. Oh, okay. I'll just waste a year of my life playing second fiddle to Maxi Gawn. I'll never understand that decision. How long was he at the D's? 2 years. Don't understand it. I don't know why he went there. I don't know what he was thinking. But hey, let's hope that whatever he learned off Max Gawn in that time, he can put right into the GWS Giants this time around. He was on our radars this time last year, I feel, but went down, and all of a sudden the Giants' ruck department became absolute lotto. We had Briggs, we had Flynn, who came out, set the house on fire early on, and then was in and out of the side like a yo-yo. Then Shane Mumford came away from the barbecue and said, boys, I'm back, play me, I want it. Oh, shit, all right, Shane, fair enough. Boom, he's playing finals, madness, but he finally retires. Surely he can't come back again, the big mummy, but Braydon Preuss, this is the time. You'll read articles and you'll see people from the Giants say, look, we don't know how our sort of options are going to look. We've got this guy, you know, vying for the number one ruck position. Fair enough. But this is the guy. If he's fit, good pre-season, he is their number one ruck for sure. You might have some weeks where there's a bit more of a sharing of the load if they come up against one of the big dogs. But there is, like I said before, I'll touch on my philosophy. If you set and forget, don't worry. Don't even think. Don't even give yourself the stress of talking about Preuss. But if you're that way inclined, if you want to spend your cash elsewhere, Jesus, Preuss is cheap. That's what, honestly, it took me a while to get around to the team picker, and I was scrolling through. 204, I couldn't believe how far I scrolled. I mean, it makes sense. He, didn't average that great. They misses a whole year, but if we just, let's just go through him year by year. Again here, he's shown an ability to just be real solid. He can win the hit-outs. I mean, look at the bastard. He's 26, 113 kgs, 206 centimetres. He's a big bastard. He's ready to take on some of the big guns. And look, don't know if there's much in 2019. Again, holy shit, a 140. Fuck. Do not remember that. So, look, what I'm trying to think of, I'm pretty sure there was a game in 2017, unless that was the game. But I remember as a kangaroo without Goldstein. Yeah, this is what I was looking at. I remember watching him get all these touches, or not the hit outs. I just remember seeing him against Geelong and being like, this bloke is ready to go. And that was 3 or 4 years ago. He's a big man mountain, which has probably seen him struggle physically because his body is, the rigours of AFL footy. He's probably had to taper that big frame just to get it durable. I'm not sure how durable it is. He had that, I think it was a gym accident. Might have torn his pec or something. It's a bloody big pec. But I just wonder, if we see some good pracky games and you got Flynn playing deep forward, he's not rucking too much, and Briggs is doing whatever he's doing, and Preuss is taking centre bounce after centre bounce, he's round the grounds, he's using that big frame to get 30 plus hit outs, I don't know if you can go past him. I really don't. And you really it just comes down to philosophy. I think of all the guys we've talked about, let's just say theoretically they're all fit. Cool, awesome, thanks. If I'm a set and forget guy, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you're choosing two of Gawn, Grundy and Darcy. If you're a one big dog and a mid-pricer, it's got to be Preuss, doesn't it? It has to be. Because I talk about it a lot, mid-prices are risky as a general rule, but when they're closer to 400 or whatever you want to call a mid-pricer, they're damn risky. You don't have too much wriggle room. The more and more they slide towards rookie price, clearly the less riskier they are because you're just not outlaying as much cash. There's not as much risk involved, and if it goes right, there's a hell of a lot more cash to make when you're going up. So let's face it, you can pocket upward of 400,000 and sprinkle that elsewhere around your team if you want to go that way. So I think that's what makes him so appealing. So honestly, I don't know which way I'm going to go. That's why I'm keeping the old team picker clear as a daisy. I'm just going to take in the information, see what Preuss does, see how he looks. If he says, Shorty, you got to bloody pick me, then I will. If he doesn't do too much, I'm going set and forget style. So I'm just going to have to wait and see, put the chips on the table, see what happens. But let me know how you're going about it. That is the ruck dissected. It has caused me a lot of heartache, many a headache over the journey. I would say I haven't got it right for a long, long time. So let's hope this can be the year. Give me some advice. Give me some of your thoughts. Any requests, send them my way. I'm punching out videos at least every second day, trying to do them quite often. So I appreciate your support. If you're loving what's going on, I'd love you to subscribe. Trying to get close to that 3,000 mark by the time we get to the early stages of the season. I'd love your support. But if you're here watching, hey, that's good enough for me. So I'll post this on the Facebook pages. Shout out to them, of course. The ones. You'll see them posted up, and hopefully you can get around them there or via my YouTube channel. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.